Hi, my name's Jen and welcome to my channel. Today's video I wanted to talk about my birth story. So there are a few things I want to say before I get into the whole birth story that will kind of give it a little bit of context. So first of all, I do have type 1 diabetes. So this is a birth story about my induction that I had at 39 weeks and 4 days. So I was induced. I have type 1 diabetes, as well as, what else was I gonna say? Like there's one more thing. I guess that's everything that really needs to be said. Why can't I think of what I was gonna say? Okay. So anyways, that's kind of like the main background of all of this. I have notes over here, just of like the times, just so that I could remember. And yeah, I guess let's just hop right into it. So this was a great pregnancy. This was a healthy pregnancy. I had no complications the whole time. Like I said, I did have type 1 diabetes, but I was in great control the whole time, and I had no complications at all. I honestly didn't even want to get the induction, but that's a whole nother story. I ended up being like, okay, my doctors just were like, this is what we do with diabetics. So I really didn't want to, but I also really didn't want to fight them on it anymore. So I went in with it. So the night before my induction was a Thursday night, and my doctor actually, I had never heard of this. I didn't know this was a thing, but at my hospital, you could go in the night before your induction and they would put a Foley balloon in, and then you could go home with it and just be at home for the night and then come back in the morning for your induction. So that's what I did, which I thought was really cool because I feel like that takes like 12 hours out of the induction at the hospital, where you're waiting, to get 2 or 3 centimeters before it comes out, where you could just be at home and like sleep in your own bed, which I thought was really cool and really nice. So I went in Thursday night at 7 o'clock. They checked me there. I was like 1 centimeter, like barely, which I had been for like the week prior. And so they put that in, and that really wasn't bad. That really wasn't too bad at all. I mean, it was like kind of uncomfortable, but if you're worried about that, at least for me, it really wasn't that bad. So I got that put in. I went there by myself. I drove myself back home after. You kind of have it's the balloon, and then it has like a bit coming out that they like taped to your legs. So that's kind of weird. You have like thick, like a rubber coming down to like your mid thigh, but not that big of a deal. I just remember that being weird. And so I came home. I wouldn't say I started getting contractions, but there was just a lot of cramping, and it was just honestly like really pretty uncomfortable once I got home, like maybe like an hour or 2 after. I probably got home around like 9 p.m. I was able to go to sleep. They said, if you kind of like gently tug on it and it comes out, then that means you're 3 centimeters and you can take it out. So every time I go to the bathroom, I'd kind of pull on it because it was uncomfortable and I wanted it to come out, but it never did at home. So we went to the hospital. I had, we woke up that morning, got ready, got all of our hospital bags, and we drove to the hospital. My induction appointment was at 10 a.m. So we got there, we got all checked in, and then it took a little bit to kind of get settled in the room. The nurse comes in and talks to you and everything. And I was just like, get the balloon out. Like, I think you're only supposed to have it in for like 12 hours. So at that point it had been like, I got to put it in at 7 p.m. and it was already like 10:30 or something. And I was like, can we like get it out? It's just like, I'm done. So finally, I think, what was it? 11:30, the doctor came in and was like, is that still in there? And I was like, yeah. So he took it out, and I was like just at a 3 centimeters with that, which was fine, and that's kind of what they were expecting, and you know, that's good to at least get you, you know, to a 3 when we get things going. So oh, I did want to add that I don't have enough like footage to do like a full-on birth vlog, but I do have like 3 clips of me like kind of updating in the moment that I will insert in here. Okay, it's 1:20 right now, and at 1 o'clock I finally got my IV all hooked up, and they started me on fluids and on Pitocin. I'm just at a 1 on the Pitocin right now, so it's not really doing anything, but it's kind of making me have like Braxton Hicks, but nothing crazy yet. And I think she'll come in like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 more minutes and test my blood sugar, and then maybe increase the Pitocin, I don't know. But, oh, and when they took the balloon out this morning, I was 3 centimeters and 80% effaced, so that's like the latest of my dilation. That was at like 11:30 or something. So there's a little bit of like actual footage of the moment. So at 11:30 they took the bulb out. I was at a 3, and then at that point they started, what was it? Sorry. Okay, so then by 1 p.m., so about an hour and a half later, they finally got all my IVs in, they got the fluids going, and they started the Pitocin. So at 1 p.m. was when they started the Pitocin, and they start you off just at the littlest amount, so at a 1, and they can go up, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I don't know what's the highest. I want to say 20 is the highest that they'll go, but I could be wrong. So they started me off at a 1 on Pitocin at 1 p.m. And then, oh wow. Okay, so yeah. So we were just kind of, you know, hanging out. The contractions weren't bad. I honestly would say they were similar to Braxton Hicks at that point, and I was kind of having fun with it. I was standing up, I was trying to be on the ball, but you know, I did have the IVs in, and they couldn't get them in my arm, so they had to do my hands. And so being like pregnant and like getting in and out of the hospital bed with the IVs on the back of your hands was just honestly kind of hard. And so it was kind of annoying to get in and out of the bed, but you know, I was kind of just like, ooh, this is fun. Like, I'm at the hospital, I'm gonna have my baby, like it's not that bad. And the doctor would come in and be like, you seem fine. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I can feel them, but it's not bad. So, you know, I think every hour they would increase the Pitocin 1 by 1. And, you know, then at 6 p.m., so 5 hours after, you know, I'd been on the Pitocin for 5 hours, at 6 p.m., the doctor came in and said, you know, like the goal is to have a baby. So like, if nothing's happening, then like, I'm going to break your water. And my husband actually had just left to go. We had our dog at home who needed to be fed and like let out. So he just went home really quick to let her out for the night, and then was going to come back and be there the rest of the time until the morning. But I was like, can we wait? Like, my husband isn't here. Like, I'm by myself. Like, and you're gonna break my water. And he was like, well, not really. Like, we want to do this as fast as possible. And I was like, okay. Okay, well, Kevin's home feeding Teddy. It's 6:10 p.m. June 26th, Friday. So it's been about 5 hours since I updated, and they just checked me and I'm still 3 centimeters, 80% effaced, and they just broke my water. So I'm on 5 Pitocin, and the contractions are like a little bit stronger, but it's like nothing too crazy yet, so we'll see happens from here. Comes in with this hook and he breaks my water. And it kind of just feels like you're peeing a bunch. It's just like warm liquid coming out. And I remember being like, okay, well, can I still like get up and like stand and be on the ball and stuff now that my water's broke, because I'm like leaking out everywhere. And they're like, oh yeah, we have like huge pads and like diapers and everything, like it's no problem. So I was like, okay, cool. So I wanted to keep like being up and doing stuff. So I did that for a little bit. I was still doing that, and the contractions were coming on a little bit stronger. And what was I? So at that point I was at a 5 on Pitocin. They broke my water and I was at a 5 at that point. Not 5 centimeters, but 5 Pitocin. So I also want to add that since the way that my management was for me with my type 1 diabetes during labor was that they wanted to have me on an insulin drip, which honestly wouldn't have been my preferred. I would love to have just dealt with it all myself, but that's what they wanted to do. And like I said, I just didn't want to fight them with it. And I was like, whatever. So up until this point, I wasn't on the insulin drip though. But once things started getting going, they wanted me to be on one. So that was an additional IV they needed to put in me. My veins have always been just hard to get at. So they had to do it in my other hand. So now I had both hands and it was hard. This phlebotomist could not get it. And I just remember that was honestly like up until that point, that was the worst part of the whole entire thing, was her trying to freaking do this IV was so hard. And she finally got it in. And I honestly, that was the point that I just started feeling really defeated. Like, okay, I can't, like, this isn't fun anymore at all. Like, this is so annoying, that hurt. And now I have IVs in both of my hands. Like, I can't move, I can't do anything. So I just kept adjusting the bed, because you can adjust it into different ways, so that I kind of was like, not just like laying down. I didn't want to be on my back. I wanted to be up. I wanted to be moving. But it was just so difficult with all of the wires and things I was connected to. So honestly, I mean, yeah, that's just when I started feeling like overwhelmed and just like uncomfortable. So I was just trying to deal with it the best I could. But honestly, at that point, I was like, I don't even want to get out of bed. Like I said, I was just in the bed. So they came in. So that was at 6 p.m. And then at like around 9:45, they came back in again to check me. And I was then at 4 centimeters. So I had only gone 1 centimeter that whole time. And it was just getting painful, and I was just uncomfortable, because again, it was just hard for me to move. I really didn't want to get an epidural. I was always like going to do a natural birth. I wasn't going to let them induce me, and I was going to do a natural, unmedicated birth. Not natural, unmedicated. But I was like, okay, I can't, like, it's just, this is not fun for anyone. I'm not enjoying this at all. I can't get into the positions I want. Like, I want to get the epidural. So I told them that probably around 10 or 10:30, and by 11 p.m. they came in, and I got the epidural, and then I have a clip of me talking about that after. Okay, it's 11:25 p.m. June 26th. I just got the epidural at like 11 p.m. I think. So I got the epidural. They checked me at like 10:45 or maybe 9:45, and I was 4 centimeters, and it was just feeling just like a lot of pressure, and it was just getting really painful, and I was just like, okay, I'm having a contraction right now, so I can tell, but it's just like pressure and tightness. So we'll probably maybe try to get some sleep, because it's almost 11:30, and then, oh, she's going to come back in, and she has to put the catheter in still, and so she's going to check me again and see if I've progressed at all, but we'll see. But I'm feeling a lot better. It just feels really weird. My legs are warm and numb, obviously, but that's better than the pain that I was in. So that's all for now. My blood sugars are doing good. I'm on no insulin and I've been like 84-ish. So I'm doing pretty good. So then from about 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. we were kind of just trying to get some rest. You know, it was late, it was the middle of the night. My husband was able to like lay on their little couch and he was able to sleep. We dimmed the lights, which was really good. And I was just laying in the bed and having a nurse help me like flip from my sides, which side I was laying on, with a peanut ball in between my knees. And I was getting pretty like the shakes from the epidural, which I also don't know. I mean, I know the epidural can do that to you, so it definitely probably was from that, but I also am just a very shaky person when I get anxious or nervous or excited or anything that's like a lot. So I don't know, you know, what it was necessarily from, but I remember like for those 4 hours, I was just laying there trying to be like, just stop shaking, just relax. Like I was just trying to relax as much as possible. And the nurse told me, you know, the more you don't want to shake, the more you're going to shake. And I was like, that's not going to help me at all. Like, what do I do then? Like, so I was trying to just be so calm. I was trying to sleep, but with the shaking, I don't know. And then I was kind of like also, you know, thinking about my blood sugars, the epidural, how it was making me feel kind of was also making me feel like my blood sugar was low, but they would come in a bunch and check me, and I was good. I would say for the most part, I didn't even need any insulin, and my blood sugar stayed about like 80 to like 90 the whole time, which was great. And then at around 4 a.m., I started to feel a lot of pressure. So my epidural was great in terms of I could still kind of move my legs and I could still feel things, but I didn't feel the pain. So I could feel each contraction and I could slightly move my legs. The nurses did have to help me flip, but around 4 a.m. I was like, I just feel like a lot of pressure. Like I felt like I had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I've seen enough of birth vlogs to know like this might mean that like it's time to push. So I called them in and they checked me, and she literally was like, well, I hate to tell you this, but you're at a 10. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. So I was so excited, and I woke up my husband and I was like, oh, I'm at a 10, I'm at a 10. Like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. And they did tell us we weren't allowed to film like the actual birth, which I understand for privacy and all this stuff, but like we only have a few clips leading up, and I wish that we had something of like the actual birth, but I do have a few pictures of like right after. But so I was so excited, and it was about 4:15 a.m. when I started to push. And I was like, okay, like this is so exciting. The baby's gonna be born like any time now. And I had to push for 2 hours and 15 minutes before he was born. So it started with, you know, each contraction, you get a contraction and they're like, okay, push. And then they count and you're pushing. And I was like, okay. And honestly, 2 hours of like, it did not feel like 2 hours. I'm so surprised. Like I would like push and then I'd look up at the clock and it'd be like 30 minutes went by already. Like I just felt like it went so fast. But I was pushing and I was pushing and I was pushing and I was pushing. And apparently his head was like in a slightly weird position. They were honestly nervous that he was sunny side up, which my husband, when he was born, he was sunny side up, but he wasn't sunny side up. He was just like in a slightly weird position, which honestly, I wish if I could get up and move around when I was in labor, I feel like this wouldn't have happened. But you know, the interventions, they just pile up. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not just kidding, but I don't want to scare anyone. But this is why I didn't want to get induced in the first place. And it could have been way worse. So I'm glad with how things turned out. But again, yeah. So I was pushing, and the doctor finally came in. They called the doctor, and finally after 2 hours, because I think that's what they do, like 2 hours, they're like, the baby should have been born. So they called the doctor in, and the doctor was like, well, you know, he's just in a weird position, and I think we need to use a vacuum to get him out. And okay, back up. My epidural was great. You know, the 5 hours I was still in labor. And then once it came time to push, I was like, wait a second. Like I'm starting to feel things like this hurts. So basically, I don't know if the epidural wore off all the way, if it was half the way, I don't know. But pushing, I felt it all and it hurt very bad. Especially when I'm like, I don't know. That was honestly the most difficult part of the whole thing, was the pushing. I mean, it just lasted so long, and yes, I had the epidural, but I don't know, I felt all of the pushing. I felt for sure the ring of fire, I felt the crowning, and it was just, I feel like that was really the hardest part for me, was the pushing, because I was like, I got the epidural and then it hurt so bad. So I don't know really what happened there, but 2 hours of pushing and being in pain for 2 hours, like really, I was just like, I did not want her to do the vacuum, but also, what else are you gonna do? I don't know. I just felt like, okay, I don't even remember like saying okay, but I was just like, okay, here we go. And so they did the vacuum. I think it took like 1 or 2 more pushes, and then he was born. And they put him on my chest and everything, and he was great and healthy, and everything was fine, and he had no issues after. He was exactly 7 pounds. He was born at 6:31 a.m. And yeah, so from getting there to him being born, it wasn't even 24 hours. That was something I wondered about before going into the induction, was, oh God, like, how long is this gonna take? Like, am I gonna be in labor forever? Everyone is different, but my experience was what? From when they started the Pitocin, God, I'm bad at math. I don't know. It was like 18 hours or something. So yeah, that's my birth story. Type 1 diabetes, induction at 39 weeks. I would say, honestly, when I look back overall, I was afraid of the induction, and I feel like it went way better than I was afraid it was gonna go. There were some hiccups. I did get the epidural, which isn't a bad thing, but for me personally, I just didn't want to. I did get the epidural, and then the vacuum. I mean, I don't know. He had a bruise on his head. It wasn't the end of the world. He's fine. There were no complications from that. And I will say I also got a 2nd-degree tear. So, and I don't know if that's from, the vacuum. He's like out all of a sudden, and then that's like a lot. I don't know, but that's also a pretty normal tear for a first-time mom. So yeah, this is also my first baby. So I would say overall, it was good. It was a positive experience. The only thing that was like a tiny bit traumatizing, honestly, for me, was the pushing. It just hurt, and I just wasn't prepared for it, and it was just long, and they had to do the vacuum, and that like freaked me out. But overall, yeah, I'm so excited. I love my baby. He's a year old already now as I'm making this video, but I still wanted to get it up. I still wanted to make it for myself, and just for anyone else curious about an induction and about, there's not a whole lot out there on type 1 diabetes and delivery and all that. So I can go into more detail on like the diabetes side of it. I also am possibly thinking about making videos about like each trimester with my type 1 diabetes, if anyone's interested in that, but I still might make it anyways. Yeah, so that's my story, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.